Morning. Guten Tag, guten Morgen, and Talafalava, as well as, I really don't want to say it. That's great. So we'll skip it. Yeah, it is. Anyway, a very good morning to all of you, everybody that has been part of CKCTV Facebook. That's right. So this morning, I know, I seem to come up with exciting, interesting topics or subjects to make my church TV exciting. Well, no, not really. A lot of my preachings that I have been preaching about, those are issues that are relevant to my sort of ordination, my type of clergyman, and that is a natural pastor or nobles level. That's correct. So those issues have had especially the treaty document, but treaty partnership more in a sense, have been a detrimental impact. It has been a detrimental impact, to my so-called day-to-day living. Maybe because I'm living in a toxic address. That's correct. I'm on, obnoxious weeds, toilet brushes, rat bags. That's correct. Gang members. So naturally, I guess I just became this type of clergyman. That's right, became relevant. It's no sheep, no shepherds. Anyway, what am we touching base on today? Yes, that's right, Mr. Chief, Cherry Chief, Mr. Cherry Chief. Yes, I gave him a piece of my mind this morning. That's correct. And that's because Mr. Cherry Chief, you all know who Mr. Cherry Chief, Cherry Thief is, Constable Stuart, Bertram, Blake. That's correct. I recently served him a trespass notice because something clicked in my brain at the courts in Hutt Valley District Court on the 9th of November 2022. That's correct. I served him a trespass notice. That's correct. You all know about it. I handed it to his father-in-law, Barry Murison. That's correct. About 6:08 p.m. in the evening, while his partner was inside. And I clearly stated the conditions. What did I say on this trespass notice? Well, I had KKK MB dangerous associate likely to apply their criminal harmful protocols via arbitrary dictatorships. I had, it is noted that this stalker dictator dangerous KKK MB associate is the possible offender who violated this victim during lockup at the Wellington Watch House police station on the 24th of June 2003 and caused other harms to the victim that needs to stop. Now, at the bottom of the trespass, I said violations. COVID-19 protection frameworks, possible criminal stalkings and harassments of this victim via her Facebook mobile court case of one pending willful trespass in the Hutt Valley District Court, as per dictating to my application for discharge without conviction, conviction, that's been adjourned to 30th of January 2023 for a defendant hearing. You are to stop all KKK, MB, criminal stalkings and arbitrary dictatorships to my personal privileges, especially the police. So that was the front of the trespass notice. Now on the back it says more relevant details. So that basically I noted the reason why this notice was served. This notice is served to stop any more KKK MB criminal harmful protocols via arbitrary dictatorships and criminal stalkings by MB KKK members inside my address. So there are the conditions. Now, of course, we all know, I know very well what's going to happen. And what has been happening with a lot of my 18 trespass notice, his trespass notice is the 19th one, is that the persons that received the trespass notice from me with special conditions that are totally relevant to cater my needs as a director and my needs as a noble, I know that they would ignore. They would say, well, these conditions, the special conditions that she's stating on the trespass notice, has nothing to do with the Trespass Act. They're forgetting I'm a director of a company, a private company. That's the way that's the way I serve my trespass notices. That's the way the victim, no, in this case, the noble, serves her trespass notice. And those conditions have got to be heeded, meaning you have got to comply with those conditions and warnings on the trespass notice, meaning you must not ignore them. Do you know why? So if I've asked this police officer, that's great, that he is to stop any arbitrary dictatorships or the application of any criminal harmful protocols, and he decides to totally ignore these warnings, these special conditions on the trespass notice, what's going to happen is that if he should behave in that manner, I mean deliberately go ahead and contravene and actually, do go against the conditions, then effectively he's going to be dealt to. The victim of any sexual crime, any historical sexual crime, has got a right, that's right, to put conditions like that on a trespass notice. Do you know why? Because there is such a thing as a Crime of Torture Act, that's correct. There is such a 1989, there is such a thing as an Harassment Act 1997. There is also another act, which is, we all know, the Trespass Act 1980, and it's the Residential Act as well. So what I'm saying is that these conditions, although it might not be part of the trespass notice, it is actually what? Legally binding because of those legislations. That's correct. So if you should commit any offenses that violates, contravenes the Crime of Torture Act 1989 or the Harassment Act 1997, I'm going to transfer those conditions with the contraventions, the evidence that he has breached those conditions, on a restraining order. Now, do you understand how some nobles are so smart that they've got a way of doing things? That's correct. Whereas dummies and commoners who think, well, this has nothing to do with the trespass notice. Well, I'll tell you right now, it does have something. Let's say that, okay, you received that and you accept it as a trespass notice. But what would happen if you actually enter that person's, or if you got somebody else to enter that victim's so-called property on your behalf because it was a criminal MMB or KKK protocol? And yet it states clearly on the trespass notice, you're not to apply any of that. Effectively, you would have breached. Now it's serious. And now it's really serious. And you deserve to get a restraining order. And if you're in a partnership relationship or any form of relationship, you now deserve to get a protection order. That's correct. Against your name. So the offenders, or the people that, remember, the victim doesn't put conditions like that on a trespass notice just out on a whim or just, just to make it exciting. No. It's because that person is an offender, is an overdue offender that has committed some sort of secret crimes or has harmed the victim in some form or another. And he's definitely a KKK. I'm sorry, that's probably why he was never arrested. And why his white people, that's correct, decided to cover up his asses as well as the so-called brown niggers, as in the Maoris. I couldn't understand why they chose the 24th of June to be the Matariki, their New Year, the Maori New Year. And I started to realize, I think it has something to do with it's so sick, it's so disgusting. What the people of Aotearoa is doing when they want to get back at somebody, and I have learned, all right? I have learned really fast, that's correct. The people of Aotearoa are that sick and that disgusting and gross and rude that they will, they will offend you and insult you deliberately. Like, it's like a trigger. Oh my God, 24th of June. Yeah, your New Year. Really? Are you serious? You could have chosen any other date, but you chose 24th of June? 2022? That's just sickening. That is so sickening. You people are such evil son of a bitches. That's correct. You'll know very well what that date means to me. That's correct. Oh, well, we'll just get back at Dr. Snowbrown, because that's exactly what you people have been doing the last 26 years, especially in the last 8.5, 9 years. Here at this address. That's correct. Your people has been doing just that. And what else have they done? Well, they chose the number 28. That's right, for those so-called silly, carved post outside a health facility. I'm thinking, again, 28. That is the number of my birthday. I don't know. You people are crazy, all right? You can say that again. It suddenly dawned on me that there was a strange officer, and I just completely ignored what he was doing. Every time I came to the Upper Hutt police station, I noticed that there was just a strange officer, that's great, who would walk past like back and forth, that's great. And I thought, I just ignored it. I thought, well, must be just one of those days, that's great. But I suddenly realized now that he's been doing that probably, I don't know, more than 10 times. More than maximum, even 5 times, that's great. I was thinking, I don't know what that officer, but I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, I actually think that's Mr. Cherry Thief. That is actually Constable Stuart Bertram Blake. That's correct. Now, you can imagine how all these years I've been doing my own thing. The victim has been doing her own thing, minding her own business, and yet there has been a stalker, a serial stalker, and also a serial rapist, that's correct, that has been stalking the victim and dictating to the victim's privileges through his criminal associates like KKMB. So, yeah, I know, it's sickening. It's sickening to think that there's a stalker, a serial stalker all this time. Can you imagine, you're going about, I'm going to Totoro Park all the time, that's correct, to visit my best friend. And I don't know that there's actually a police officer sitting in his car somewhere, watching me, that's correct. Like closely, like a predator, preying on me, that's correct. While I'm just minding my own business. No victim of sexual assault, any sexual crime, should ever have something like someone like that. That's correct. How was I supposed to know? It's only just now, this week during the 9th of November, that things have just fallen in. More pieces of the puzzle have come together. That's correct for the victim. Well, also because I remembered. That's right. He actually broke your hymen. You know what? Why? My God, why did you do that? Why did you violate the victim while they were asleep? You have no respect, no compassion. My God, I know. I did, inside I felt like crying, but I said, you know what? I've been doing that most of the last over 20 years, 26 years, and I'm not about to bawl my eyes out at the so-called revelation, but the confirmation, the realization of what he had done. That's correct. He had actually broken my hymen. That's correct. That's why he gave me the 3 nosebleed, the severe nosebleed, which is a KK harmful protocol. That's correct. For over 20 years, and then he tried to control you via the order of supervision from Mr. Willow. That's correct. My gosh, you are a sick bastard. He couldn't even He couldn't leave the victim alone. That's great. So what did he do? Just now, on the 14th of November, Constable Stuart Bertram Blake, because he took offense, remember, that's a private Facebook. That is my private company, my pride and joy. That's correct. My baby. It took me it took a lot of blood and sweat. That's right, poured into my kingdom. On the 14th of November, I think the jackass, or to say the arsehole, the white nigger arsehole, son of a bitch, had gone into my Facebook, that's correct, and had read, my posting about, in the pictures of his address, which is, that's a form of protest. That is a form of protest exercising my Section 14 and Section 19 Bill of Rights Act, that's correct. Which is rightly so. I'm within my rights to do so. That's great. But hey, I'm doing it inside my own Facebook page. I don't expect you to come and stalk me in there. That's correct. And then next thing you know, you're dictating to my kingdom. You got no right to dictate to my kingdom. That's correct. So what did he do? Well, I think he applied his police authority, abused more like his police authority, and contacted Facebook. That's correct. I don't know what kind of bullshit he told them, and managed to somehow get my Facebook placed under restriction for 24 hours. Now, the 24 hours is over, and I had already sent 2 messages to Facebook. But what they're doing is they're actually controlling it now. As in, it's still restricted. My Facebook is now only restricted. That's correct. You know what? I don't need this. The last time it was 30 days. Now I know what these people are doing inside this address. Number 10, number 7, and number 3. These are MB KKK members. And what they've been doing is spying on the victim, listening in on eavesdropping in on the victim, and reporting to also. And who are they reporting to? Well, it looks like in this case it was none other than Constable Stuart Bertram Blake, Mr. Cherry Thief. That's correct. And I remember last year, around about September, that's correct, I might have said a comment about, I don't know what it was, probably about the KKK and the rest of them. And what did they do? They contacted whoever it was. I believe it's this officer. That's great. The serial stalker and the serial rapist, and as well as the serial killer. But they might have buried your best friend here. That's correct. I wouldn't be surprised. What did he do? What did they do? They gave you 30 days. They dictated to your Facebook. Via Facebook. I don't know, again, for 30 days, they played. You all know about it. I know. Was it torture? Did you feel like it was torture? Did you feel like it was cruel? I'll tell you right now, that was the most cruelest, but now it's even cruel. That's correct. To have a serial stalker, serial rapist dictate to your Facebook. That is a classic example of what a sexual predator is and what a serial rapist would do. They like to dominate their victims. They like to dictate and control their victims. But for him, sadly, he's what? He's not only, I don't know, a maniac. He's obsessed. He's possessed. And he's got a compulsive addiction to dictate and control the victim. That's correct. Via his so-called other criminal associates. Now, that is why he deserves the bullet to the head, the Nazi soldier. Death penalty. That's correct. Why? Well, I don't want to have my life suddenly controlled by somebody who's already attached. He's got a partner. He should be directing those kinds of, disciplinary strategies towards his own partner. That's correct. Not you. He doesn't own you. But what's happened is the men inside this address who also deserve the death penalty by the Nazi soldier. They're all trying to control you. That's correct. But you ain't never going to be part of their so-called organization. So I don't understand. Well, that kind of makes sense why he violated you. Was because they wanted to assert some sort of dominion, ownership, control over you. That's correct. And I suddenly realized that, the other worst betrayal of all was that your rallies actually knew about what the police officer did. And the majority of their associates, people in the community, had actually known about it. Like it was a dirty secret, like it was some dirty secret. That's correct. And of course, the victim is walking around completely oblivious and doesn't know. That's correct. The reason why she's dictated to and controlled by a bunch of losers and a bunch of scumbag, dirtbags, lowlifes. That's correct. Ratbags. It's because they themselves are losers. That's correct. And are lost and have no identity. But they've got to use somebody to feel like, that they're something. That they've got an identity of some sort. Or a destiny or a purpose. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, people like that who like to dominate people, who like to dictate people to people, especially victims of sexual assault, women, that's right, mental illness and whatnot, are just plain losers and maniacs. And they only deserve the death penalty. Especially if they're non-believers, they don't have a God to worship, they don't have a life, they've got to dictate to somebody's life in order to have a purpose and in order to have some value, let alone, give them a rush or something. That's great. Otherwise, they cease to exist. They walk around like paralyzed, like parasites. They don't know what to do. That's correct. Completely lost and oblivious. But I mean, I do not need a serial stalker and a serial rapist as well as a serial killer. To be stalking me. And the same officer I saw every time I go past on that street opposite the so-called Upper Hutt Library. I noticed this officer would come out in a police car with a female officer, and I was thinking, maybe it's just me, but I noticed this quite a bit. I said, you know what, that looks like the same officer, and it looks like I haven't seen. Thankfully, I haven't seen Stuart, Bertram Blake face to face now. But I will recognize. That's correct. I say, yes, that's definitely the same officer that I saw. That's crazy. That's been crazy. That I see walking, back and forth. But I don't understand why. That's great. I'm just there at the station to do something. But I noticed that. I think my mind has made connections and recollections, and it's all making sense. That I definitely am a victim of slavery, torture, cruelty, criminal stalkings, and hijacking. And I suddenly realized the other thing was that you're the only one out of your dad's side of the family and your siblings, but more so the only one that doesn't have sex with every other Dick and Harry. So I guess when they had set you up with 1996 with Mr. Brick, and of course you managed to, to put a stop to it before it proceeded to the worst end of the scale when you discovered he's actually married. That's correct. But I mean, you were never going to have a serious relationship with, who wants to have a serious relationship with a man that's married? That's correct. And taken. And of course, they were so unhappy and very, very angry because they didn't get what they want. They were unsatisfied. They were not satisfied. That's correct. With what happened between you and Mr. Prick. So what did they do next? They then decided, well, because she did what she did in 1996, 1997, 1998, that's great. With a woman, that's great. They decided, hey, we'll set her up by the computer course in 2001. I know, and they're actually MMB members, The woman that did the computer course with me and his partner, and of course you went to their address without thinking, you didn't even know, that's correct, who they were. That they had a gang connection. That's correct. So that was a setup. It was another setup. And so the one with the lockup, the police, that was probably one of the setup that they wanted. If they wanted to dominate you, they wanted to exploit you even more, to experiment on you, and to apply even their so-called, their full on, their criminal protocols. They had to violate you. They had to violate you at the police station in order to give them some sort of, like a, an okay, that now we can now fully apply our criminal harmful protocols in the form of KKK MMB, and we don't ever need to ask for her consent or her authorization as well, because she's officially now our property. We own her. Oh my God, how stupid is that? How stupid is that? And yet the victim the whole time didn't even know. So that's why Tony Shaw then set you up via the police. They served the trespass notice blank on the back. That's correct. On the 21st of April 2007, that got you, then they gave you an order of supervision. And get this, for a year, that order was supposed to be for a year. And so you did it, you completed it. Every conditions of the order, that's correct. And you never breached the bail conditions. But look what Mr. Jerry Thief, Mr. Shadow, and Mr. Willow did. They went and extended for an extra 7 years. Now, but why? Why would you do that? You must be crazy. You must be crazy, but they must be sick with erotomania. So that's what it means to be sick with erotomania. When you stalk a victim, when you are a serial stalker, a serial rapist, and a serial, that's correct. You stalk the victim for over 20 years, that's correct. But this organization, with their KKK so-called associates and your rallies, stalked the victim for 26 years. Now that is erotomania. That's not only erotomania, that's lunacy. That is lunacy, but absurdity. That's correct. They're crazy. They are crazy. And they never ask for your consent, not even for your authorization. That's correct. Whether it be verbally or written form. And now you know why. You know what? I tell you what. Constable Stuart, Bertram Blake, you don't own this person here. I'm not even a slave to, whether it be to you or your so-called friends, criminal friends. You people are disgusting, I know. To think that for 26 years, they've been after your royal ass. That's correct. The only thing that they wanted from you was sex. To convert you to a sex slave. Or to a whore. Just like them, just like themselves. They are nothing more than just whores. That's correct. And criminals. But I mean, at least what? And they think you're the loser. No, I'm sorry. They're the loser for dictating and setting you up with their so-called criminal associates or their members. They're the losers. That's correct. They're still after something that they ain't never going to get. They might have stolen your cherry twice. That's correct. They might have given you 3 tortures and cruelties and criminal stalkings and so forth, but they have not won over you. Dream on, dream on. I might be poor ass, broke ass, but I know that my God is more important. That's right, and my identity. But I mean, at least you have an identity, and you have, intellectual properties that are valuable. The thing that they actually stole your play, 2006, around about the 15th of November. About the same time, you had the second severe nosebleed. That's correct. Before 2001, the computer setup, and even before 1996, when I met Mr. Prick, the first setup, there is no history. There is no history in my medical file in the 90s and in the 80s of any nosebleed as severe as those 3 nosebleed. Nothing. And before I came to university to study law in about 2002, I had no criminal convictions. My criminal record was clean as. That's great. And I guess that's another thing that pissed the hell out of them. You not only didn't have sex with any of their members or associates, or let's just say with their members and blah, 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 and their garbages, but you didn't seem to have any. Your criminal record was too clean for them. But I mean, hey, I wasn't born into your organization. Whether it be KKK or the red one, that's correct. MNB, no. Now, if you think I'm innocent after I've been through all of that, that's correct, and survived it, and come through, that's correct. Well, you can understand now why they would never, ever, they would never bow down to you. That's correct. They don't need to bow down to you. They need to bow down to God and Jesus. That's correct. They need to confess their crimes. I am what I am. But you're not going to dictate to me for the rest of your days, buddies. Especially Mr. Cherry Thief. Oh, he remembers what happens. He just won't admit to it because he's a coward and he's arrogant. He's too arrogant. Maybe if somebody like me, maybe if a Nazi soldier were to storm into his address and put a bullet, and point the gun at his face, then you'll think twice, Or point the gun at his so-called, partner, then what happens? Not your whole family? Yeah, because that could easily go that way. Because that's what it means to be in a gang organization. That's correct. They kill people's, whether immediate family, extended family, you name it, or associates, or friends, or colleagues, anybody that's connected to that person. That's correct. Thankfully, I only, managed to narrow the number down now to about 18. That's correct. Well, you can understand now why I preach in the manner that I do. I can't wait to file the restraining order. Hopefully on Friday. That's correct. Against this serial killer, serial rapist, and serial stalker. Well, I can understand now why they've been coming inside, invading your privacy, and invading your personal spaces. It's because of this officer. Now, if he's a KKK member, well, that would explain why there's been a lot of ignorance. Yeah, why they ignored your complaints. Why they wouldn't serve your trespass notices. I mean, they really do love, giving you the full treatment of a slave. That's correct. or a loser. But you're not a loser. You know that. Your family love you more than all these losers. That's correct. I know that. But the person that probably loves you even more is your archangel, Warren. God and Sama Lama, and most of all, your 6 Holy Ghost children, but most of all, God. That's been watching my back all the time and keeping me alive and safe. But I sure have learned a lot living at this address. Now, I hope that I don't know what's going to happen to my Facebook. It might not open. Well, if it doesn't open on the November the 18th, I want to wish you all now a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, because it will stay that way until the 30th of January. Right. So if it doesn't reopen again, then you know what's happened. Oh, that's a goodbye. That's a goodbye from me to the rest of you again for the last time. Aotearoa New Zealand, you don't deserve me, but the New Zealand police need to stop going into my Facebook and dictating to my Facebook. You people, there are more important crimes you should be out there solving and arresting the culprits and perpetrators, rather than coming in and crashing my so-called kingdom, crashing my private company. What is the New Zealand police doing? Worrying about hate speech. There hasn't been any riots of any sort. I've been preaching that way since the 11th of January 2018. And we haven't had any riots in this so-called local township, not even in this country, because of my preaching. And people haven't, dropped dead. Nobody has been. That's great, as far as I'm concerned. So for the police to worry about something that's only could be an imaginary crime, or it could be imaginary, that's great, or a figure of your imagination or fantasy, it's just a waste of time. It's a time waster. It's a time waster. It's correct. But that's what these guys like to do. I mean, they like to waste my time, waste my energy, waste my resources, waste my finances. Oh, the government's not paying me for nothing. I know that. And you think I don't have any value. If I didn't have any value, you people wouldn't target me for 26 years. Let alone, especially in the last 14 years, when you stole my plate. That's great, you bloody thieves. Oh, you are good, all right? I tell you, this treaty partnership is pretty good, all right? I mean, you've got the so-called gang members inside here working together with the police that are corrupt, especially the KKK. That's right. MB associates. Can you imagine that? You can't trust anybody. Not the New Zealand police, not anybody working in the system, and not even the people inside this. Well, I couldn't. They're criminals anyway, and not even your immediate family. I can't trust anybody. That's right. I can only trust myself and my Lord. Now, and my 2 angels and my 6 Holy Ghost children. I can only trust the 2 bodyguards that have been teaching me and mentoring to me. And at the same time have been teaching and mentoring to the rest of you in Aotearoa, New Zealand. But as I said, we're finished. We're done. And I'm sure you're done. After you read what you read, the problem with you people is that you're commoners. And a lot of you are uneducated, non-believers. You don't think like me. You don't think like me. So you shouldn't be entering my kingdom if you don't think like me. That's great. I'm a multifaceted, multifunctional thinker. That's correct. And I think outside the square. And most times, if I want to think inside the box, I can do that easily. But when you've got sabotagers and jello marshmallows and wreckers coming in who are actually, weeds, and are coming in for the wrong reason to abuse and take my so-called preaching out of context, misuse and take advantage of it, you know what? Nothing good could, no good outcome can come. The fact that my style of preaching is raw and in your face, well, there's a reason why. Because, well, I guess it's the only way to get the so-called can of worms out. That is hidden inside, and also to clean out the dead man bones and the graveyards that are inside you, a lot of you. That's correct. So my style of preaching is like a drill sergeant. You see how I'm wearing that's correct. But of course, I don't need to stay in your country. I just need to keep myself safe, file my restraining orders. Oh, there's going to be more. And then file my asylum application, and then I get out, and then I can leave your country. You people are the worst examples of citizens. That's correct. Well, you can understand now why my condition stands in the church TV. Why criminals are not welcome. Hey, you're not needed in there. If this officer can't handle what I said inside my kingdom, then maybe he's got a problem. Maybe he's got a problem. And it's called arrogance, racism. Yeah. Because of the fact that I look indigenous, and he took offense. That's great. So he needed to punish me for my freedom of speech, for my style of preaching. Man, he's the one who deserves to be punished. That's great. And disciplined for what he did. That's correct. To the victim. So are you saying to me, Constable, Stuart, whatever your name is, blah, 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 Mr. Cherry Thief, that if I were white, if I looked like you, like a Pākehā, that's great, that you wouldn't take offense to what I said inside my kingdom, and that you wouldn't have imposed that restriction via Facebook by using your so-called police authority. That's correct. No, I guarantee you, yeah, you wouldn't. But you got the nerve to think that you're going to give me the Māori treatment, the black man treatment. That's correct. The islander treatment. No, I'm sorry. I got every right to preach in the manner that I do. But you have no right. You don't own my intellectual property. You don't own my company. You don't even know how it works. That's correct. You are not the ordained natural noble pastor. You don't have the expertise, let alone the understanding and the stamina, the mental stamina. That's correct. That a lot of snow shepherds have. No, you don't have it. I can only wonder how he got through the so-called training there at the police college. Can you imagine if he were a cadet inside the so-called U.S. Army or the Navy SEAL or some other military type form? That's great. He wouldn't last. He wouldn't last. A drill sergeant would just say, "Hey, white nigger, come over here." That's great. He wouldn't last. He wouldn't last. He doesn't have the stamina, the mental stamina, the ability to look at things in a different light. Right? Instead of taking offense, hey, you should say to yourself, you know what? I probably deserve that. And also because if I've done that much, I probably deserve it. And I'll let it go. Because if I don't, the person that I'm going to hurt the most is either my immediate family or my extended family or myself even, let alone your partner. That's correct. So he should have let it go. Problem is, I don't think that Constable Stuart Bertram Blake has the stamina to go to university and complete a degree. You know why? Because he doesn't have the mental, stamina. That's correct. Like I said, I never took offense to what my teachers or lecturers were preaching about. Never. But I always spoke up because that's just the way I am. I'm a Pākehā, a different kind of Pākehā. So I hope this matter is going to be sorted out at the courts. That's great, on the restraining order. Because he definitely is a serious stalker and a serial rapist. He's a criminal. He's a low-life dirtbag, a scumbag. I don't know how the police can tolerate, but maybe because, hey, maybe that's what they do to women that are in the MB organization. That they actually drug them during lockup, especially if they've been declared in the courts as, especially if they have a mental illness. That's correct. So they will drug them at the lockup at the police station and have sex and engage and rape them. That's correct. Whether to teach them a lesson, on behalf of the people of Aotearoa, or on behalf of, say, your rallies that have got the criminal connections, or on behalf of the organization. That's correct. That is so disgusting and evil. Can you imagine if the New Zealand police, now, because you now know that they have the power, that's correct, to impose penalties and to restrictions on people's Facebook, private Facebook. Can you imagine if the New Zealand police that are here in this, at this location, in this country, decides to enter, say somebody like the president of the Schweizer in Germany, Philip Schleifer. They enter his Facebook. He's got about 914 videos on YouTube. And what happens? They then take offense, they make a complaint, or they tell the so-called Facebook, you know what, that contravenes the hate speech, the standard of the community. And yet they don't own Facebook. They're not part of Facebook. New Zealand police, your job is to do with policing locally and regionally. You know what I mean? Your policing has nothing to do with hate speech or freedom of speech by private individuals on social media platforms. You don't have the fucking right to even go there. You know what I'm talking about? You were sworn in as an officer, that's correct, to deal with issues concerning inside your communities. Not outside, which is the social media platform, Facebook. You don't have any rights to be there. You got no authority to go there. That's correct. If you're going there for the wrong reasons, where you want to dictate to somebody like me, to my intellectual property, it's purely out of jealousy and out of hatred as well. But if you want to misuse your authority as a police officer, that's correct. And as a New Zealand police force, to think that you got a right to discipline me on behalf of one of your officers, I'm sorry, I'm not having any of this. Now you've got a war. Now you've got war on your own turf, but we're from the Nazi soldiers. I'm Nazi soldiers. If I've got a new title called Der Neue Führer, then I'm sorry. You people are getting just what you deserve. 1,000 Nazi soldiers. That's correct. You cannot keep on rolling out the wrath carpet to me, or the wrath, the whip. Without what? Without me hitting back? Yeah. I mean, just because I said what I said, it doesn't contravene any hate speech. In fact, the only law that I think I might have committed is called bullshit. That's correct. And what? And arrogance. So what would happen if we have a riot here locally in this township? Because I couldn't open my Facebook. That's correct. So what do you suppose would happen if people start burning down stuff here in this local township? Because my kingdom was closed. Or if they start, harming the police. We got a different type of police. The police officers are so corrupt. And they're more like gangsters. That's correct. Rather than like your policing, they're like your real police with integrity, without bias. We got war. We got war coming. So if by the 30th of January the Nazis don't show up, I'm taking matters into my own hands. Now, I'll leave it into your hands to interpret it any way you like. What I'm saying is that now you got war on your turf. That's great. Because you decided to be mean and nasty, but I have had enough of this bullshit. Where you constantly, that's right, dish out the wrath to me. Dictate to me. Teach me lessons. My God, I've got so many lessons. I've got a long list. That's great. And I'm 50 now, and I don't want to be doing the same thing. Oh my God, be among time wasters. Like petty, pathetic, shallow, narrow-minded son of a bitches. That's correct. So you all think about it. You all think about what you're going to do. Because when the kingdom is closed, it's now only for myself and my friends. You can all... I don't need you. I don't need you, Aotearoa New Zealand. I don't need any of you. But what I will apply is my protection, my rights to protect myself. That's great. So that I can leave your country peacefully. And so that you don't have to, be offended and be insulted, because all of you are, you're mentally ill. That's correct. That's another meaning. If somebody takes offense to anything I say, then they must have a mental disorder. That's correct. It's called Intolerance. It's not Lexington. It's not Lexington. Intolerant. They don't have any. I don't know. Their spirit are not blessed in such a way. I am blessed differently. I know I'm blessed. But the rest of you, you're all cursed. You're cursed. I do not need any cursed people, any weeds, any bad luck, bad omen, bad news to come into my kingdom. That's correct. So if I make it private, I'm going to have peace of mind. My friends are going to be happy that I am happy and I'm safe and I'm protected. That's correct. And I'm respected as well. Because, oh my God, if that's all they're going to give you, then you can forget it. New Zealand, Aotearoa New Zealand, you can go to hell. That's correct. And of course, they will say the same thing to you. My God, when you think about the things that they've been doing to you. All right. I think that about wraps up my so-called lecturing or preaching for the day. You all have a very nice day. And have a really good, hard think about what you people are what's going to happen to your country. Already, your Minister of Justice you got a new Minister of Justice, I've discovered today, Right Honourable Kiri Allen. That's correct. That's not a good point. That's a good move. But it wasn't good before then. That's correct. So what happened to the previous minister? Had to step down, and he made the right decision. The Right Honourable Chris Fa'afoi made the right decision. And I'm happy with that parliament. If a minister doesn't live up to his portfolio, then he needs to step down. That's correct. Just like if I don't live up to your expectations, guys, I don't need to open my kingdom. I can now close my kingdom. And you do not need to open. I do not need to open it. And you do not need to access it. My company is a private monarch, and it's private, and it will stay that way. I've done my job. I've done my dash. I need to leave. That's correct. I need to go to more, where the milk and honey is. Here is just the dead lands. Here is in this country is the dead lands. But there are so many thieves. All they do is steal from you. Can you imagine how people in criminal organizations, and I suddenly realized the other reason why you got violated was that maybe your cousin or your dad's side of the family, in terms of the brothers and their wives, they were all having sex. They were all having sex with police officers, especially your cousin side of the family. I wouldn't be surprised. And you're the only one that didn't have any sex with any Maoris or any police officer or any member of the elite. I didn't even need to go there. That's correct. But for him to steal, that kind of thing that was meant to be for my beloved husband, that's great. You can keep it. But he needs to take responsibility. He cannot keep on thinking that he's got a right to dictate to you and stalk you like that, especially through a bunch of maniacs. That's correct. Incorrigible maniacs. Get alive, people. There are plenty of whores out there. There are plenty of women, that's correct, in your organization and in the people of Aotearoa, about 800,000 of them, that you can stick your prick into, that's correct, and enjoy. But for this one's taken. Reserved, but they don't care. I know. So in other words, Longovinga, if I put it rightly, o solo kama malako kai ko olua e pa umuku uma so Longovinga e mea I leo be mea I au elite be mea I avainga le kongo le organization al KKK especially and the MMB. Awasua malia lava le meo le enjoy fia ke leo cousin and the rest of the whanau ainga. E mea I pālangi au le lei. It's like it's an epidemic. It's like a plague. It's an epidemic. E mea loa I pālangi au le lei. Ua vālea loa ke I ala iau. Cuckoo. That's correct. Dizzy wizzy. Lose it all. lose control. That's great. Be fa be la yo kwa poko lava kwa ma ngai al me le me le pa langi au le ya. Ai uma e koe pule e le pa langi au le. E fia pule e koe fia pule e le mauli. O la me so pe fa be nga e fa be mai. Ya ka longa e mea I kanga I kama lolo uma ia yo Congo Mako organization. Boko Congo Mako police force. And you can't do it? Ka fe pe au o mai Nazi 1,000 Nazi soldiers. Maka o kia lava ko ami o leanga, ami o piu, ami o puaa. Makua puaa lava ami o maka o kia. And they deserve they bao ale hoki lava mene o mai. That's correct. And they deserve it. O makua pa o longinga pa o buku ia usolo kama, malako kai ko olua. That's exactly what it means. That fat bear e ngofo se leo. Ile faile me leanga le a mio le me leanga la me makanga. Ile uru makua o le makua o le lako ainga. Man, that really shows all right. How sad. Le pa mumuku ko olua o solo kama. Ba ninga e pa mumuku o malava. So ole longa ya kama loloa e fefela yai. That's great. Au kama loloa me ai ole au le ia a ole a me ufa lava. E fai ai makua le anga fai lava fai ai. E rengi fai ai. They got no value. They got no value. Ole au le ia ole luni ia o fai ai. Makua maniac lava. Makua va le ai. E wa whaava lea e le au Islanders, ma le au ma especially au Māori. Ngā whakwa e oso ngā kula mea ngā. That's correct. Amen. Amen, sister. That's a good one. Man, you're awesome. You're a winner. You should be proud of yourself. I am. Thank you, Dr. Snow Brown, for a brilliant preaching for the day. A job well done. Thank you. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.